Good evening, Nigeria. This is TVC News Politics on Sunday. We're live from our studio in Abuja, the federal capital. I am Femi Akonde. President Tinubu's administration will mark 2 years on May 29th. While the government highlights successes and hurdles crossed, critics argue that the impact of bold economic reforms is still being felt by most Nigerians. The APC-led government points to achievements such as dropping inflation, a stable FX market, and improvements in healthcare, education, and security. However, critics contend that the renewed hope agenda has not passed the litmus test. But the APC's decision to endorse President Tinubu as their sole candidate for 2027 is seen as a nod to his leadership. To help us gain insight into the midterm assessment, we have the Honorable Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, whose ministry's achievements are prominent in the federal government's scorecard. Hello, sir. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Honorable Minister, your ministry was really outstanding at the beginning of this administration, even when people talked about the hardship, but your ministry has stood out. But let's talk first about what you have been able to do in the correctional system, the correctional reforms you've been able to introduce. You talked about how you've been able to achieve a 5% decongestion of Nigeria's correctional centers and services. But talk to us about the broader plan for this sector.
Well, thank you very much. Just like you said, for us to appreciate where we are, we have to take a glimpse at where we're coming from. You understand? And that's very key. When we came on board, we realized that this government realized that we had a lot of people in our correctional centers. There was huge congestion. Of course, a lot of these problems are inherited, but as we always say, this government is not about making excuses. We don't make excuses. We prefer solutions to problems. That's what distinguishes this government from previous governments that we've had in Nigeria. In the correctional service, we've been able to reduce congestion within the first 6 months of this. Within the first 1 year, so to say, we reduced our congestion by about 4,032 inmates. We reduced it by 4,032.
Across board?
Across board. That's about 5% of the total inmate. And after doing that, and we did this without spending a kobo from government, but by partnering with the private sector. And we came up with a correctional transformational plan, and which has to deal with a lot of relocation of our correctional centers. That process is presently ongoing, and we have to understand that some of these correctional centers, some are over 100 years old, some are about 150 years old. And as I always say, President Tinubu did not become president 114 years ago. He inherited all these liabilities. But as a man, he has swung into action to be able to clear all these many. So if you see Kuje Correctional Center today, it's been fully renovated, and it has a new look, both not just aesthetically, not just from the exterior, but even from the interior, and of course, learning centers and a lot of other things. We have Suleja that is ongoing as we speak. We have Jos that is ongoing. We have about 10 correctional centers that we are renovating while we are making plans to relocate the ones that have been taken up by urbanization. But beyond infrastructural uplift, beyond the infrastructural uplift which we are presently doing, one thing that's also important is for us to understand the meaning of correctional. Why the justification? What's the mandate? Why did the name change from prisons to correctional? To the correctional service. Obviously, it's not just because we don't like the name prisons, but because we understand that there's a limitation to the word prison. It's a place of incarceration, and we decided place of confinement and decided to change it to correctional, which means transformational, which means restorational, and of course, which is correctional in nature, So we are working very closely in terms of our correctional master plan to make sure that our rate of recidivism is close to zero. So we're already working on that. And of course, with this system, we also built a holistic system in terms of our correctional inmate management system, the SIMS project. What we inherited was not what we could, I don't want to speak, let me just leave that. But you could see the effect, like when we had when we had a prison break in Suleja, you saw how difficult it was for us to recapture anybody. You saw how difficult it was for us to even get the details and the particulars of these people. But the last incident that happened in Elisha a couple of days ago, where 7 inmates escaped. I think about 2 or thereabout among them had been recaptured, and they were recaptured in Lagos, because we were able to send the biometric, the pictures and all the information, the biodata to all security agencies. And within less than 30 minutes, we're able to send it across because we've digitalized the whole solution. Yeah. So for us, the correctional center is a huge one for us because we believe that every Nigerian deserves to feel the renewed hope, even those in the correctional centers. And before you come in, let me say this. We must also appreciate part of the reasons why there's a bit of issue with the congestion. We must understand that more than 2/3, 67% of our inmates are state offenders. So it's difficult for the federal government to you can't just release them, you understand, because they are state offenders, they are not federal offenders. Federal offenders, honestly speaking, they're less than about 30% of but myself and the Honorable Attorney General, we're working very closely to come up with a mechanism where we now engage with the states to further be able to reduce the inmate ratio, in our correctional centers.
Yeah, as much as you don't want to talk about what you met on ground and how, you've been able to walk around it, maneuver through the process to improve on services, Nigerians still want to hear about some of these things. But let's talk about rehabilitation and reintegration. What kind of programs are in place, especially for some of these offenders and some inmates with alleged links to Boko Haram? What measures are in place, programs especially, for rehabilitation and integration when they have been cleared?
May we not limit this to Boko Haram?
Indeed.
I don't want us to limit it to Boko Haram, and I mean that, okay?
Not just that.
Yeah,
broader.
let us just be holistic, in terms of our, in terms of this engagement. And for us, there are a lot of training programs that we're presently doing. In the last 6 months of last year, I think over 4,000 people were actually trained and empowered. And because our agenda, if you want zero recidivism, it means you must equip people with the skills and the knowledge to earn a living so that crime becomes unattractive, to them. So we're doing a lot of that. And of course, a lot of our students, a lot of our inmates today are enrolled in Open University. A lot of them are doing WAEC, as I said. Last year, I went to Kuje, and I tell you that a particular boy who is an inmate in Kuje has written about 3 books.
I remember that.
Some of them, we have a lot of them now running PhD programs. We have a lot of them doing fantastically well, doing degree programs. So there's e-learning facility in a lot of our correctional centers now. And of course, the curriculum has been well developed. And of course, skill acquisition training is something we're also taking to the next level. So for us, it's about being able to build a life of independence, to equip them with the skills that they need, to be able to provide for themselves and for their dependents. The key issue for us, as I've said, the success of our correctional service will only be determined by the rate of recidivism. That's for me, as far as I'm concerned. Because if somebody goes to a correctional center to be corrected, to be restored, to be transformed, to be rehabilitated, and if he comes out after passing his time, and at the end of the day, he comes back to the correctional center again for that crime or for a bigger crime, then the correctional service has failed. So for us, we understand that correctional service is an ideology. Correctional service is one that is built on a strong foundation of revitalization and zero recidivism, and that is what we are working towards at the moment.
Honorable Minister, you acknowledge that Nigeria is in a unique position, as a gateway to both the Sahel and the Gulf of Guinea. Now let's talk about how you have employed technology, because recently you talked about building a robust database and enhancing technology to ensure that these border-related crimes are reduced to the barest minimum. Talk to us about these achievements.
Well, thank you very much. In terms of border control, of course, that is an area I will be very open to Nigerians, and that's what this government is about. Well, I mean, the president came on day one and said subsidy is gone. You know, he didn't hide that. You know, he spoke about the unification of the exchange rate, even though, as at that time, most people didn't want to hear it. But we're always bold. We're trained to say the truth and to be very objective. Of course, there are still some challenges with our border space, even with the technology. We've done a lot, but of course, we identified the outstanding challenges, and we're working on them. And I'll tell you about the things we've done then before I talk about the outstanding challenges, because that's an aspect that is very dear to me and it's very key to my heart, the issue of border control, because a secure border is a safe nation. Yeah. If you want to keep your people safe, then secure their border. You know, that's an old saying, you know, and that still remains as relevant now as it has always been, you know. So for us, we've been able to do the e-border solution. Nigeria terrestrially, we've always said it, border space spans over 4,047 kilometers. And with the e-border solution, the first one that we've done, we've been able to cover over 2,000 of those places. And of course, we'll be starting the second phase very soon, so that we'll be able to cover almost all our border space in terms of surveillance solution. I don't want to go too deep into that for national security reasons. And of course, the president has graciously also approved recruitment of more immigration officers who are going to be more border control officers. So we're going to have more boots on ground, you know, because when you're using technology, you must also have the boots on ground. And we're working towards equipping immigration service with all the necessary things. They need vehicles. Of course, this government got about, I think about over 30 vehicles, you know, to our border. But of course, we know that is very little to what we still need to do, but we've started it. So vehicles, ammunition, and a lot of other things for the border space. So those are the challenges in the terrestrial border. But in terms of the air border, I think we're about 80–90% good, because this particular government has been able to deploy the API, the Advanced Passenger Information, where pre-profiling of inbound passengers, you know, can now happen for the first time in the history of Nigeria. Because before now, our profiling of inbound passengers has always been subjective and not objective. But for the first time, we have the capacity. Nigerian Immigration Service has the capacity to be able to take care of that. That's number one. And number two is that with our landing and exit card, you know, it's something that we've always had, but was in paper format. But now we have been able to digitize that.
Well, Honorable Minister, I would like you to hold your thoughts on these landing and exit card, because we just need to take a quick commercial break. I'll be right back to continue with the rest of the program. Don't go away. It's to Politics on Sunday. To Politics on Sunday. And our guest is the Honorable Minister of Interior, Olubumitunji Ojo. So before we went on that break, we're talking about, you know, the e-visa landing and exit cards. Tell us how this has enhanced immigration. Its implementation started on the 1st of this month, May. How has implementation and also enforcement been?
No, it's been very fantastic. I have to tell you this, and I'm grateful to God for the renewed hope agenda, because in terms of our visa, you know, people always think visa is just a migration management document. Visa to us is not just a migration management document; it's an economic enabler and an economic enhancer, and of course, it's a weapon of national security and. You know, so for us, we started with the issue of the landing and exit card. The landing and exit card has been digitalized, so before coming to Nigeria, of course, you have to fill it. It's already linked to your visa scheme. It's linked to your passport. So at the end of the day, it helps us to be able to protect our border space better. And for the e-visa, we saw that we need to open our space, you know, to willing investors, tourists, and people that want to come and explore this beautiful land, you know, we all call Nigeria, this place we call home. You know, we want people to explore it. And the key issue is that we realize that it's been a problem either we like it or not, for people getting visas to come to Nigeria. People need to lobby. Who do you know? Who can talk to the CG? Who can talk to, just because you want to come to Nigeria. And of course, this is not about business as usual. This is about business unusual. It's about us doing things differently. So we decided to introduce the e-visa. And of course, we've seen countries that introduced it, from the UAE to Singapore to, most countries that are for it, has really had massive impact in terms of the economy, because people will find it easier to come. I'll give you an example. Last year, I think the Ethiopia, for example, had tens of millions. I think about 20 million passengers in Ethiopia. Nigeria had barely 4 million. Nigeria has a bigger economy than Ethiopia. They are more. The population is more. But we saw that a lot of this is linked to how difficult it was for people to get visas. So what did we do? We digitalized the process, whereby you don't need to go to the embassy, to be able to get your visa to Nigeria. And of course, we also try to reduce human contact, because we have always said the best way to kill corruption is to remove human contact to the barest minimum. So now, I'll give you an example, who lives in Aberdeen, who wants to come to Nigeria. He doesn't need to go to London, fly to London, book hotel, and start just to get Nigerian visa. You can do that on your phone. And of course, we have a visa approval center that the president graciously commissioned in December last year. So with this, the system is integrated with all background check agencies in the world, and we have a database management system that has handshake with the necessary agencies and organizations. So once you apply, within 48 hours, you are sure of having a response, either yes or no. And I'll give you how successful this has been. In the last couple of the last couple of days, we had about 5,000 and I think about 5,800 people, you understand that? Yes, when you compare it to the trend of what we used to have, that is much, much, much more higher. It means that people have always wanted to come to Nigeria, but it's just that the complexity, the bureaucracy, it's so difficult for people to come. And we believe that the rest of the world cannot be opening their borders. Of course, we open our borders without compromising security. Let me put that clearly. But the rest of the world cannot be embracing visitors, opening the space for investment while we are closing it. The president cannot be traveling, going, having sleepless nights, wooing investors to come to Nigeria, and to now give them visa to Nigeria becomes a problem.
How about the cost of the visa? Is it investor friendly? Of
course, it's reciprocal. Our visa fee that's of course, visa fee all over the world is reciprocal. It's based on reciprocity, We charge the United States what they charge us, it's based on reciprocity. So that's not, that's it. So, but for us, what we're just saying is that being able to break that barrier, that barrier of access, because like what they always say, the easiest way to drive traffic is to give access. Once you give the access, once you open the frontiers, people will take advantage and people will come. So for us, we've been able to do that. And again, it's even more secured than before, because before what we used to have is a scenario whereby the immigration attaché receives your application. The immigration attaché is the one that screens, he is the one that interviews, he is the one that approves, he is the one that issues. There was a single point of failure. But now, if you apply, the person who is dealing with your document, you don't even know the person. The person goes through your record, and based on what you've submitted, and of course, we now have a CRM solution, which we call a CIMA, Centralized Interior Management and Administration System, which is interrelated with all our systems. So we can now even confirm your hotel booking, confirm different. So it's more secured now, and at the same time, it gives people response within 48 hours. So.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry to cause you. At the last ministerial briefing, you said that the Ministry of Interior generated more than 6.3 billion naira in 2024 alone, with expatriates quota emerging as one of the top revenue streams. And I believe this is also linked to these e-visa improvements that you have done. Now, talking about the enforcement, because you spoke strongly at the recent meeting you had with the at the Employers Consultative Council, where you talked about, ensuring that these expatriates abide by the laws in the country, because that has always been the challenge in Nigeria. How do we still ensure that they don't flout our laws?
Yeah, there's a system we built, which we call the EAS, Expatriate Administration System. We've already built that system. And let me correct one thing. E-visa is not available for expatriates. There are only 13 categories of people that e-visa is only for short stay.
Short stay.
Short stay only. That's what e-visa is for. If you want a long stay, then you go through the embassy with a deeper and a longer check and whatever. So, but with what we have been able to do, we've been able to streamline, because what we inherited was a bit disjointed, all right, whereby the SEPAC works in silo, the quota works in silo, these other all solutions are in silos. But what we've been able to do is to create a nexus, to create a fulcrum upon which the whole solution can revolve. And that's what we call the expatriate administration system. So what it means is that, and of course, that solution is also integrated with our e-gate, it's also integrated with our departure and landing card. So issue of overstaying, abusing your immigration status it can no longer happen. We've been able to digitalize that whole process, and we have been able to solve that system. Because like what I always say, yes, Nigeria is very welcoming. We welcome Nigeria. We welcome people. We want people to come into Nigeria, but not to disrespect our people. We do respect, and not to disrespect our laws.
Especially the labor laws.
Especially the labor laws. No, we will not tolerate that. Just as I said on Friday when I spoke with the airline operators of Nigeria Airline, I told them very clearly that the era when airlines bring people to Nigeria without visa is gone. Because in the last 2 weeks, we've had a couple of cases, and it's always been like that, people coming into Nigeria without visa. Airlines they must also be responsible to the Nigerian state. They must also understand that they have a responsibility in terms of our national security. You cannot leave Nigeria and say you are going to the US and an airline will pick you without an American visa. You can't go to UK and an airline will pick you without a British visa. Nobody does that. So Nigeria is not a dumping ground. We made that very clear, and I think we are all on the same page now that henceforth this is going to be corrected, because penalties will start penalizing airlines that does this, because I can't imagine you living London or you living Paris or living anywhere in the world coming to Nigeria, and all of a sudden you get to the point of entry and you don't have a visa. What are you coming to do? Why must you even leave without coming? Nigeria is not a banana republic.
How do you handle such cases at the airport?
No, you go back. We've returned a lot of them. I mean, last week alone, more than 6, 7, 8. We returned them back. This airline that brings them, take them back. You can't come in. It's a matter of fact. Because you cannot come into Nigeria without authorization. The visa is the authorization to come into Nigeria. The best we can do is to simplify the visa procurement process, which this government has been able to do. We have simplified it. You can now get visa within 48 hours. We have applied technology to bring it to your doorstep. We have conquered the barrier of distance. You don't need to leave your house to apply for a Nigerian visa. All you need to do, just do it within 10 minutes on your phone. And within 48 hours, you get a response. So we don't think that is too big a hurdle for anybody to cross. Not crossing that hurdle is more or less like disrespecting Nigeria. You understand? Let me just carry my bag and go into Nigeria. No, we want you, but we want you to respect our migration.
How are we enforcing this at the land borders too?
No, of course, that's the essence. The landing card is it's across all borders, maybe maritime border, land border, and air border. And of course, all the landing cards, once it's issued, it's QR coded. Okay. So just like our e-visa. So with a scan, you can always detect the authenticity. So the era when people fake our visa, it's gone. You understand? Because before you cannot fill a landing card without a visa. Once you put in your passport number, it pulls your data from the visa. So that's this whole SIMA solution we have been able to create. So you cannot have a different data on the landing card, a different data on your visa card, a different data on your SEPAC, a different data. So we have been able to harmonize the solution and create a single point of contact for interior management solution. This is what we've been able to do, because anywhere in the world, Homeland Security Management is basically data-driven.
I think with the rise of cyber threats and all of that, it's important for Nigerians to also ask you, how tamper-proof, how secure is our database. We've seen the issue with JAMB. We have also seen several issues of government data being hacked. How secure is our database with the Ministry of Interior?
Well, I want to assure you it's secured. I don't need to tell you how or when or whichever, but let me just give you that assurance. And don't forget myself, I'm an IT professional. I'm a certified ethical hacker. I'm a man of about over 2 decades of experience in technology, and as a project manager, I would be very stupid to deploy solutions without considering some of these repercussions. So we want you to be sure that the people the president has brought on board are people with necessary experience and managerial skills to be able to navigate and maneuver over this. So, of course, we can be rest, and that's why you can see that digitization is the way to go in any homeland management.
Mm-hmm.
If you get to Home Office, you will see what they're doing. Data is data-driven. If you get to America, Homeland Security in America is data-driven because you deal with citizenship integrity. You deal with about making things easier for the people and for people to feel more comfortable. And, of course, in delivering the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President, it is our desire to simplify issues, just like we've done the contactless passport solution abroad. Mm. There are very little complaints. So of course, there might still be 1 or 2, but it has gone to the barest minimum. So the era when somebody flies 6 hours in Canada to Ottawa to go and get passport, that era is gone. The era when somebody leaves Oldham, lives in UK, all the way to London to go and, that era is gone. The era when people need to leave work or leave school just because they need passport, that era is gone. So Mr. President has shown that he's not just president for Nigerians in Nigeria, but he's president for Nigerians all over the world, wherever they might be. And that is where we've been able to take the interior solution, the digitalization solution, the simplification solution, beyond the shores of Nigeria to Nigerians in diaspora and, of course, to people who want to come to Nigeria wherever they might be. Mm-hmm. We believe technology is the only solution to barriers, is the only solution that conquers barriers, is the only solution that unites. And, of course, we are employing technology in all sectors of our lives to make sure that Nigerians will reap the dividend of the renewed.
All right, then, in 30 seconds before I let you go, what will you say to people who, critics of the administration, who say that, you know, the president have talked about bold economic reforms, but they say the results of these reforms are too slow in yielding, in manifesting?
Let me tell you this. I want to give you an example. How big the building you want to build is or will be will determine how strong the foundation will be. Mr. President is laying very solid foundation. And I can tell you this. That's the difference between a politician and a statesman. He has shown to be a statesman. The issue of subsidy removal, we can see it now. When so many countries are going through recession, we are already out of recession. You can see the unification of the exchange rate. Investors are coming. So for us, it's not about every country that is great today, maybe China, maybe Singapore, went through this same surgical process. Yeah. Unfortunately, we might be starting it a bit late, but the good thing is that it's never too late because Mr. President came at the right time to save Nigeria from turning into a place none of us would have been proud to hand over to our children.
I wish you the very best, and thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Well, that's it on the program. Our guest, the Honorable Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, reeling out all the achievements and works in the Ministry of Interior to the credit of the Bola Tinubu administration. That's all on the program today. Thank you for watching. You can watch a repeat of this episode on TVC News YouTube channel. Thank you. I am Femi Akonde. See you next time.